Right. Mastery Pack Guardian. I think it's fair to say that I've been overtly positive when it comes to everything we've talked about so far regarding Mastery Pack Guardian, and the main reason for that is we've sort of had a narrow perspective, right? We've been mainly looking at the good stuff, the Majestics, the Legendaries. I'm also coming into the set as never really played Guardian, so I'm excited to delve into a new class to utilize all these new fun mechanics that we're sort of seeing as needed flavor, if you will, to help ramp up Guardian on the aggressive side. But we haven't really discussed the main aspect of Mastery Pack Guardian, and that is the limited experience, right? So it comes out. It's either tomorrow or the day after, depending on when I release this, right? But just looking through the cards, putting this together, it doesn't have that great of an outlook to me, right? It's pretty abysmal when we actually get down to the main crux of the cards, right? The commons majorly, because also it's one less rare, right? There's smaller packs, you get one less rare, which definitely really affects the limited feel, right? So Mastery Pack Guardian has twofold purpose, right? It's there for crack shuffle play of the set itself. It will be available in your skirmish season, depending if your store is running skirmish and running crack shuffle play as their skirmish event. And then it is also to be utilized in conjunction with Smash Palace, right? Smash Palace being a pseudo board game that you have to, in a sense, restock. I think this is also kind of a step down, right? Rather than, they could have easily had 4 different stylized Guardian decks that you could, were flexible enough to use all the different heroes similar to Around the Table. But instead, it does utilize crack shuffle play. You can get 4 decks out of it, right? But then after that, you're probably significantly better off just building your own decks and having your own fun. Because while at least Smash Palace has the heroes to fall back on, the set itself in a limited capacity, I just don't think fares very well, right? But when it comes to actual Mastery Pack Guardian and its crack shuffle play, limited experience, right? The sole focus is on Velda, right? So whenever an opponent draws 1 or more cards during an action phase, create that many Seismic Surge tokens. At the starting turn, if you control 3 or more Seismic Surge tokens, cards you own with Crush get to dominate. So the main crux there is you think it'd be fully, easily functional, right? The main gist of the set is to try and get Velda to be easily activatable, right? Have that dominate and just have this big back and forth between you and your opponent, since it is Velda v Velda, right? Now, personally, I think Bravo would have fit significantly better into crack shuffle play. It's probably a timing issue, but Bravo, the Flattering Showman, I think would have been a much better pilot, especially if we were doing a single hero like we are with Velda, right? Because he's just a lot more flexible. And even young Bravo, old Bravo, OG Bravo, right, I think would have fared well too. So I wish it was Velda and at least OG Bravo, right? If not all 3. But we are stuck with Velda. So again, the main idea you probably should be thinking is, well, the cards will have a lot of use for Velda. Yeah, somewhat, but not overly synergistic. So, if you're not sure what crack shuffle play is, super simple. You crack 3 packs, you remove the last 3 cards, which for Mastery Pack Guardian will be a token, equipment piece, and then either a token, rainbow foil, or something of a high rarity, right? A legendary, a cold foil. So, for one, there's only 3 tokens in the set, so you should get all 3, but you might not, so you'll have to trade with people. I assume the failsafe there, especially for Smash Palace, right, and to make sure it is a complete box, right, and you're not missing a weapon, you're not missing XYZ. Although, I can't remember, were tokens included? I hope actually tokens were included in Smash Palace. I mean, when it comes to the inclusions of Smash Palace, just to go back on a little bit of a tangent, I think we've done phenomenally as a separate thing, right? If it was just sold again as the heroes, the event deck, and the bits and bubbles, because they are fantastic bits and bubbles that a lot of people want and are not widely accessible. But again, you're roped into buying another full box of Mastery Pack Guardian along with Smash Palace, and again for probably a mediocre experience playing directly from those packs. But, right, when it comes to Mastery Pack Guardian, so 13 cards per pack, 1 rare / majestic, 9 commons, 1 equipment, 1 token, and then 1 token rainbow foil or cold foil. So, first and foremost, for limited, the big change here is there is 1 less rare, and that is highly significant. You're also probably getting 3 equipment. I don't know if the equipment is also going to show up in the common slot. I hope it does, because if you're just stuck to 3 equipment pieces, boy, is it going to feel awful when you get 2 headpieces, 3 headpieces. right? And you don't have the same variety that your opponent has. So really, really hoping that the equipment can show up in the common. Really hoping it can't show up in the rare, because it feels like such a mistake to have the crab suit in the rare slot, right? But yeah, for crack shuffle play, you're looking at 3 rare slash majestics, 27 commons, 3 equipment, unless there's more equipment in the commons, 3 tokens, and then either a little extra tokens. Again, it's Seismic Surge, Velda, and High Riser as the weapon. So most likely you will get a complete set. Again, probably won't always absolutely line up. Now, there are 73 new cards and 55 reprints. So we'll go through the reprints nice and quickly. So all the 55 reprints, you have the 3 tokens, Velda, High Riser, Seismic Surge, 10 equipment pieces, 39 commons, and 3 rares, 30 of which, 1 from Rathe, 6 from Klloo, 10 from Everfest, 3 from Tails, 1 from Dynasty, and 1 from Heavy Hitters, being that of High Riser. Now, personally, I wouldn't necessarily call any of these Guardian staples, right? In the sense that they're hard to get access to. So again, the majority of them are equipment that you're probably never going to use outside of this, and comments. So yeah, they don't make up a good crux of, you know, starting your Guardian journey, if you will. There's definitely some other rares and maybe even majestics that probably would have been nice to feature in the Mastery Pack for Guardian if it is meant to be your Guardian pathway. Now, when it comes to the new stuff, right, we have Guardian interactions, and these look awesome. There are 17 overall, 6 of which are commons and 11 rares. And this is the big issue for me when it comes to limited. So for the commons, there's 2 red, yellow, blue sets of cards, and then for the rares, there's a lot more fun, flavorful things, but they're in the rare slot, right? And again, you're getting 1 less rare per pack. So overall, you're looking at 2 to 3 rares for your crack shuffle play, of which there are 11 unique cards to showcase this fun, flavorful interaction that's meant to probably be the highlight of limited, but they only make up 42% of the rare card pool. So tie in the majestics as well, and you're probably looking at 1 to 2 of these cards for your deck. So yeah, it's very odd to me to have this new mechanic that will most likely only really be purposeful for crack shuffle play, and to not have it be widely accessible, right? So even on the common side, the 6 commons, again, you might not see any of them because the common slot is quite hefty, right? So yeah, I feel like the rares should have probably been commons across the board, or just in general, there should have been some sort of mechanic to make sure you get a handful more of these mechanics, since, again, these are meant to be the flavorfulness of Mastery Pack Guardian when it comes to crack shuffle play, but without it, it's sort of an abysmal set, right? To have a limited experience with, right? So of the fun, flavorful cards, stuff that, again, you're not really going to see too much of, unfortunately, we have the old one cards, right? Then we have the new annexation cards, which all have really cool effects. And then we have this set of clash cards, right? Clash of heads, clash of chests, shields, arms, and legs. And this would be fantastic because this is such a cool effect when equipment is not plentiful, right? Because you have that fallback of if you can't clash with the designated equipment piece, so if they can't put a negative counter on it, they lose a life. So in the sense that you have X pieces of equipment, you could clash, and then for you it's a negative counter. For them, it's risking that life. And again, in limited, lower life totals, that really does matter. But again, good luck finding one, and then also finding the one that synergizes with the handful of equipment pieces you get. And then the annexation cards as well, super cool. When this deals 4 or more damage to a Guardian hero until the end of turn, they can't play face-up cards from Arsenal, and you may play face-up cards from their Arsenal. So for one, it locks them out of their Arsenal for a whole turn, and then gives you the benefit of playing their card, right, on your next turn. It's really cool, it's really fun, it's really flavorful, but again, it's a rare, right? And then on the other side of it as well, you have, for instance, New Bravo, who can flip a card in his arsenal, and then you have Velda, who I guess is just looking for heave, and before we even get to the slide, there's not that much heave, right? Annexation of the Forge deals 4 or more damage to a hero equipment they have equipped. Again, fantastic in a limited equipment format, right? Where again, you're not going to have most likely full slots. But again, it's probably a win more card in the sense that if you get it, your opponent does get it, and then you steal their equipment value, you've just job well done, right? Annexation of Grandeur deals 4 or more damage, gain control of an aura they control. So Seismic Surge generation as well, being again Velda-centric, it's a little bit sparse for my liking for, again, trying to consistently get Velda off, because you can't stack Seismic Surge, you have to get it all in one little burst to really use Velda, right? What about the equipment? Well, there are 4 sets of equipment. There is a Guardian set, a Crabman set, a Welcome to Rathe miscellaneous set, which is god-awful, and the Iron Rod set. So across the board, you have 3 sets that can block, right? And then you have 1 miscellaneous set. Now, it does have 2 good pieces, Hardened Crosstrap and Goliath Gauntlets. And then, for whatever reason, there's Merchant's Hope Hood, which, if you don't understand, give it some thought, right? We'll get to it in a second, why it's bad. But yeah, so the Guardian set, I would put at the top, right? Because you get the block, it's all battle worn, and then you have an effect on top of that. The Crabman set is awesome. It will be great for probably Project Klloo in the future, depending on the hero, right? Ranger. But again, it's banking on Heave, and there's 3 rares and 9 common Heave cards. And then the Iron Rod is just, again, at least it has the block, right? So 3 equipment for Crack Shuffle Play, 4 of each, 4 shields, 4 head, 4 chest, 4 arms, 4 legs, right? So roll the dice, and, you know, odds are you won't get duplicates, but there will always be that feels bad moment of getting duplicates. And then, again, the choice picks. Hope Merchant's Hood. Instant. Destroy this, shuffle any number of cards from your hand into your deck, then draw that many cards. What's Velda's ability? If your opponent draws during an action phase, you get Seismic Surge. This is literally give your opponent Seismic Surge. And time skippers, I don't think there's necessarily enough, right? Maybe you can go big attack into weapons, but then again, this is sort of banking on Seismic Surge generation, which we'll get to. And then the Sunken Lookout, again, when this defends, put a face-up card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card, and this gets +1 until the end of turn. So, although with Flattering Showman, most likely you're playing the card from arsenal, the main crux here is, again, it does want to synergize with Heave. So the 3 rares are the Binding of the Old Ones, and then the 9 commons, you have Rubble Razor, Overswing, and Thunderquake. So these are definitely nice pieces to cycle away, right, as Velda, since none of them synergize with Velda's mechanic of wanting a Crush card to give Dominate. So it would be nice to be able to Heave one of these, right, get almost to Velda's ability, with the exception of Thunderquake, where you can check off Velda's ability, and then get rid of it with the Crab Suit. But again, they have to line up, right? Now, the commons being commons, you will probably see a fair few of them. But the rare, yeah, 1 rare, 3 rares overall, not looking too great. Now, in terms of the actual equipment, is it valuable in any sense? Well, there's 44 Crush cards overall, so if you can get to the Seismic Surge of 3 for Velda, there's not really going to be an issue finding a card to dominate. There's a decent chunk of 8 and 7 and 6, right? So how valuable is that 1 extra block? Well, it really only affects the 7 power cards and the 10 power cards. Everything else you'll most likely have to block out with cards from hand, or use multiple equipment pieces, which again, you're going to have limited access to. So, I don't know, it feels like on the defensive side, to at least have, you know, a little bit greater of a interaction feel, the equipment could have been a little bit better. Then, in terms of shields, we have 3 great choices: Steel Braid Buckler, Hoarding of Denial, and Tremor of Resistance. So all of these are pretty approximate, right, in their value. Steel Braid Buckler probably being the best, with Temper being a 2 block then a 1 block. Your Hoarding of Denial could potentially be a 1 to 4 block, depending on how many cards you're giving with it. And then Tremor of Resistance, at the very least, is 2 block. But, for whatever reason, there is a 4th shield. There is the Rotten Old Buckler, which is just a straight worse shield to any of these 3. So if you're the unfortunate sob that ends up with it, right, against someone who has a Steel Braid Buckler, I would feel a bit disparaged. So I don't know why it's included. It feels like it should have been included. It feels like this and the Welcome to Rathe miscellaneous set probably should have just been cut, right? I would take the Iron Rot and the consistent effects, even though Hardened Crosstrap will be absolutely fantastic, right? I'd still take the consistent block, right, overall. But it is what it is, so yeah. 1 great shield, 2 good shields, and 1 Rotten Old Buckler. Now, Velda's ability, again, the main pilot of the set, right? Every matchup is Velda versus Velda, so you'd think you'd really be able to show her off. There are not that many cards that auto-complete Velda's ability, right? For the commons, Seismic Stir and Thunderquake. For the Majestics, Seismic Eruption, and then technically put them in their place, right? If it's dominated, it's an easy 3-card cycle from your opponent, and then as Velda, because you're forcing them to draw, you'll get Seismic Surge. Tectonic Instability is also an interesting one. If your opponent has an Arsenal card, you have an Arsenal card, works out to a bunch of Seismic Surge for everyone. So yeah, these are the cards that, again, auto-complete. Rare, again, issue with how many you're going to get. So you're banking on Thunderquakes, which you'd love to cycle away because you don't want to play Thunderquake, and then you don't want a 6-cost card gunking up your arsenal. And then Seismic Stir, right? It's again still usable in red. The yellow and the blue probably drop off. But what about other levels of Seismic Surge? Well, there are exactly 5 cards that generate 3, the ones we just went through, 4 that generate 2, and 7 that generate 1, right? So again, as Velda, you want to get to 3. So this is where Richter Scale becomes really, really good if you find this as your equipment, because again, you find a card that generates 2 or a card that generates 1, and you can auto-complete Velda's ability through Richter Scale. But for everyone else, it's, again, to me, for the limited experience, going to be a case of you either got it or you don't got it, and you're going to have a much better time as Velda dominating over your opponent than your opponent is, again, not being able to generate X things. And then for weird cards as well, right, you've got Draw a Crowd and Bolden. So Draw a Crowd, not too rough, it's kind of cool, but both of these, again, in the case of Velda, they force you to draw, which then gives your opponent Velda Seismic Surge, right? At least with Draw a Crowd, you're both getting Seismic Surge, but in Bolden, you're trading your buff, which will be reasonable, right? Again, limited, low health, but you're giving your opponent Seismic Surge, so there'll be probably use cases where, again, if your opponent has 2 Seismic Surge and they just can't quite get it, then Bolden becomes really bad to play. So it's just, there seems to be this sort of mishmash with interactions that will not feel great to have to utilize. So yeah, overall, I don't think very highly of the limited experience for Mastery Pack Guide. I think the phrase that I've seen float around by various people, right, it being a glorified armory deck for Velda, I think is right on the money. I think, unfortunately, overall, the smaller pack size, the one less rare, has definitely done it a disservice. The abundance of commons that, again, are okay, but they're not super meaningful to a well-crafted limited experience is unfortunate, right? It feels like all of the fun, flavorful rares that, again, have no purpose whatsoever, well, maybe a little bit of purpose, but not a lot of purpose outside of this crack shuffle play, should have really been in the common slot so that you could find them and you could have those fun, limited interactions. And then, again, overall, I think variety for heroes, it just matters a lot, right? We had Bright Lights, which personally I still think is a very fun limited set, but you had the variety of heroes to utilize depending on what you pulled. You only have Velda, so it's whoever gets the best cards for Velda, whoever gets the best ways to trigger Velda's ability, or just gets the better cards, right? And that's unfortunate to me. So yeah, I'm going to enjoy opening this set. I'm going to enjoy hunting for my Majestics and maybe a Marvel or two. And look, I hope to be very, very wrong. I hope to play Crack Shuffle Play and enjoy it and not just feel bad or feel great, right, about getting X card over my opponent. Until then, what can I say? It doesn't look like a well-crafted limited experience, especially coming off of IC, especially coming off of the Hunted and on all the advancements, essentially, that we've had towards crafting a better limited experience. So unfortunate this got delayed. It's unfortunate that this has those comparisons, but yeah, it just doesn't seem as meaningful of a limited experience as I'd like, right? Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think. See ya.